Hello, people. Uh, Today I thought I'll talk a little bit about the early days of my holder carving. This is around, I would say, 2010, 2011 time frame when I was just beginning to learn copper plate. Like a lot of people, I started with this turn of the century oblique holder. This is the 5/8 one with a thicker grip. I figured if I didn't like the thicker grip, I can always make it thinner. But turns out I was quite happy with it. I was using it. In the package of nibs that I had ordered, I ordered a few of the EF66 nibs, which are tiny nibs, and of course they wouldn't fit in this flange. And I actually didn't want to modify it because I was at that time using the Gillette 303, which was I just fell in love with that nib. So I didn't really want to modify this flange. So I figured I can make myself a holder that would just take the EF66. I did not have any brass and I couldn't find it in the appropriate thickness. So I just made this holder. This was probably the second or third holder I carved for myself. And I figured in this holder that if the points were um, the contact points with the holder, there's these four contact points. If they are in the same proportion as a regular holder, it shouldn't matter what the rest of the holder is shaped like because well, as long as it's the balance is kind of towards the front, it doesn't tilt to the back. The shape shouldn't matter. So this is what I came up with. And now at that time, I was using a very kind of modern grip, the sideways grip that we are used, a lot of people use. Even now, I see a lot of modern calligraphy. They use this kind of a grip. It works perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So based on that, the contact point that points that I had, and I created kind of this flange from this offset piece of wood. Now it looks weird and quite cumbersome, but it's actually quite comfortable to use. Probably I have about medium-sized hands, so I guess other people with the similar sized hand should feel comfortable. And although it looks kind of weird, if you actually kind of line it up, you will see that the tip of the nib is actually lined up with the center axis or the longitudinal axis of the holder. And I did a lot of practice, and actually it was using this holder that I started using the more modern grip, and but it had I just loved it. I did a lot of practice with this and learned did quite a bit of my early learning with this holder. So it looks weird and strange, but it is, for me at least, quite comfortable, and it works just as it should. The thing that I did not like about this was that it puts the nib, a bit further than a normal flange would. And I think even now, maybe because I got used to using these holders, even now when I'm using a regular holder, I tend to hold it up a bit high. I don't know if it's because of that or just something that I do anyway, but and in sketching also, I tend to use the pencil. Hold it up high, so maybe I just have a tendency to hold the pen up high a little bit. So once I had the kind of confidence from this holder, I tried some other things. This is a holder with the kind of grip towards the higher end. If you grip it in the traditional way, this bulge will actually interfere with your grip. But this has a triangular grip. Again, very much suited to the sideways grip. This triangle has the thumb on one side, the forefinger on the other. It's slightly rounded on the bottom to make it comfortable for the middle finger, and it's a very kind of snug fitting, very well balanced holder, and I really uh, appreciated the balance of this holder when I tried to write at a small X height. So this was a success. Um, now, by this time, I started getting interested in more of the traditional designs, and one of the I guess the simplest and very elegant designs I found was the Zenarian. So this was my kind of Zenarian replica holder. It's got a slightly thicker grip, which I seem to like at that point in time. Not overly thick, but I would call this a medium thickness. Now, traditionally, these holders would have a fairly thin grip, like the Magnusels and the Kelchners of the day had fairly thin grip. So compared to those, this would be a bit thicker. But this is about, I would say, like some 7 inches roundabout. I really like this. And of course, I had to then challenge myself with a Magnuson replica. This is in dark walnut, and this, by the way, all of these are carved by hand. I have a small kind of hobby lathe now, but at that time I didn't even have that. And even the hobby lathe I haven't turned it on in, I guess, the last 2 years. Um, so this was my Magnuson. It is quite straight. It is quite, round. You can't really tell that it's not done on a lathe until you kind of roll it around uh, in your fingers and find like very slight irregularities. But for like the purposes of the design, it works perfectly fine. So I really like this, and it's actually quite comfortable to use. One would expect that it would tend to fall back, but it doesn't. This kind of bulbous finial is my own design. It just kind of happened, and I liked it, so I let it stay. I figured I could always make it thinner if I wanted to later, and I kind of like it. So this is how it stays. The next kind of step for me, and these all happened probably within a span of 3 or 4 months, was this teardrop shaped. I just had this vision of a teardrop that I wanted in a holder. So you can see that the grip shape and the slight kind of the triangular bottom side lets it sit in the hand and doesn't really poke you at the base of the forefinger. Now, I wasn't aware of the kind of offset, um, what's called the ergonomic holders these days. Uh, but I kind of did this offset out of necessity of having some place to put the flange. And this is what I came up with. And it wasn't until much later when Nick Diacono actually mentioned it in watching, no, well, in seeing a picture, I guess, of another holder that this offset was similar to the Keel's holder, which was probably the ergonomic holder of its day. So the Keel's holder has this offset in a kind of straight design, but it does have this thing, and it does sit very nicely in the hand. When I say nicely, what I mean by that is that when you're applying pressure, the holder doesn't have a tendency to flip over. It's well controlled and doesn't interfere with the movement. Now, for a slightly more traditional grip with the kind of forefinger on top grip, where you're moving on the fingernails of the last two fingers as opposed to the sideways grip. And I carved a different design. It's got a slightly thicker grip, but allows for a more traditional forefinger on top grip. This is probably a bit more comfortable and kind of closest to the Keel's design. Although that wasn't by intention, it purely kind of happened as I was doing my experiments. Now, all of these kind of proved the theory that really when you have the contact points established in proportion to each other, the rest of the shape doesn't matter. So I decided to take it really to the limit. Well, the limit of my carving abilities, and carve this holder. This holder is again the contact point for the thumb, forefinger, middle finger, and the base of the forefinger are all kind of lined up. This is where it touches you. So these points are fairly in line with what a regularly or traditionally shaped holder would look like. And I came up with this design. The slightly extended flange still allowed that nib to be, a bit further away than a traditional holder, which I liked. I kind of like doing it. Somehow gives me better control. So although this holder looks very strange, when you hold it, you'll immediately feel that it's quite well balanced and actually works just like a regular holder. Now, a lot of people have asked me whether this is specifically designed to fit my hand, and I would say, yeah, I did. Well, I did measure it based on my hand, but given that these contact points don't really change that much with hand size, maybe this shifts a quarter of an inch up or down. I think this should fit pretty much everyone. I have made one replica of this for someone that asked for it, and the and it fits them very well as well, and their grip is very different than mine. So I guess it is, fairly a successful experiment. It did take me a long time to carve though, because I did not really have all the tools I have now, but I was having a lot of fun. Now this is a straight holder that kind of happened by accident. I was carving this piece and it already had a knot over here which I had driven out, and I was going for kind of like a tendril of smoke pattern when I probably applied a bit too much force in the wrong direction and the holder broke off. Well, the piece of wood at that time broke off. So I decided to kind of give it this shape. I don't know what it is. It's like a leaf and things. Some people think it looks like a porpoise tail. But this is what I ended up with. And since you hold the traditional straight holders fairly upright, it worked fairly well for me because this kind of curve fits my forefinger. I don't know if this would fit other people very well. I would guess it will, but it works beautifully for me. And I do a lot of my broad edge work with this holder. So these are some of the holders that I kind of experimented with in the early days of my carving. I'm still experimenting to this day, learning new things, but it was a lot of fun, and I figured I should share it with you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I will have links to my website in the description section. So thank you for watching, and please do subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me. And I hope to make some calligraphy videos soon and upload them. So thank you. Bye bye.